Um, and how would you say your views on race and diversity have evolved from when you were a kid um, to where you are now?
Uh, I'm sure that I'm not as discriminatory. I didn't discriminate. I don't discriminate against blacks now.
No.
I mean, I know when we lived in El Paso, I had a black dermatologist, and I didn't see him as any different than anybody else.
Yeah.
So I think I changed gradually.
Yeah. And where were your parents' views when you were younger different than yours?
Were my parents' views different than mine?
Yeah, either.
I would say not.
No.
As far as views on blacks, my parents hired blacks, but they treated them very well. I know my father, when one of the blacks that worked for us as a maid, she and her husband wanted to buy a house, he signed the loan agreement with them. And he helped them get that house built. In fact, I used to go with him. Sometimes we would go on Sunday after church and go to the house to make sure that everything was being built correctly.
Oh.
But this house was in the black part of town.
Oh. And when did you notice blacks in restaurants and movies? Like, when did you begin to notice the integration? When you were in El Paso?
I'm sure it was when I was moved to El Paso, yeah.
No.
Because blacks were not treated any different in El Paso.
Do you think that was just the way El Paso was, or do you think that was part of the change in the way society was? Do you think it would have been a little bit more integrated back in Midland, or do you think it would have been the same?
Oh, I know it was integrated. It was segregated back in Midland.
Oh.
More, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, El Paso was much more integrated.
Yeah.
In 1966, at the national basketball tournament, they had 5 blacks on the UTEP team.
Oh.
And that was a very unusual situation.
Do you remember that? Do you remember?
I wasn't there then. That was even before I moved there.
Do you remember watching that on TV or like hearing about that at all?
Oh yes, I heard about it a lot, and I watched. They made a movie out of it.
Yeah, that's right. Was segregation a conversation topic with your friends and family in the early 70s?
In the early 70s, that's when I lived in El Paso.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, there were lots of Hispanics in El Paso, and they lived in our block, and I mean, that wouldn't have happened in Midland.
Yeah.
And they were just friends just like everybody else, but I still didn't have any black friends because there weren't that many black people in El Paso. And a lot of the people that were in El Paso, a lot of the blacks were military, because there was a big military base there.
So Grandma grew up in Dallas with black servants, and how do you think she felt about segregation?
I think that her family was maybe more aware of it. She had a black... Where she lived, there were servants' quarters in the back of the houses. And she would she knew all the people in the servants' house, in the servants' quarters in her block. She knew them all, and she would go up and down the alley. They were not allowed in the front, but she liked them all, and she played with some of the children.
Was that, do you remember hearing whether that was controversial, her playing with the children, or not?
It wasn't controversial. She played with this one girl that was her age when of course, the blacks did not go to their school, but when she would come home, this girl lived next door to them, and she would come over, and Becky, and that's my wife, she would play tennis with her, play games with her, and one of the games they played was tennis.
Huh.
And when they would play in the driveway, and the tennis ball would go out into the street, sometimes that black girl would go get the ball.
Yeah.
And after an hour or so when they were playing, her mother came out there and said, "I need to talk to you girls. You know that," I've forgotten what the girl's name was. But anyway, she said she's not allowed in the front. So when the ball goes out in the front, you have to go get it, Becky.
Oh.
Can't let her go get it.
Well, and so going back to the media coverage of the civil rights movement, do you remember hearing about any of the events of the movement, like the murder of Emmett Till, the Freedom Rides, or like the murders?
Yeah, yeah. That was big news. Yeah, I think everybody heard about that.
Did you get the Life magazine that had the pictures of Emmett Till?
Yes, we always subscribe to Life magazine. Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember seeing the pictures and like how that made you feel at the time?
Yeah, I thought that was terrible, really. Because things had changed a lot.
Yeah.
But not enough.
Yeah.
But, I didn't like what was going on.
Yeah.
I thought it was time for a change.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Grandpa.